Now let's continue to measure the pulse of politics here in Nigeria. The political climate gradually approaching boiling point as the campaign season for 2023 draws near. Well, today, one of the contending parties, the APC, officially unveiled the former Governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, as its vice presidential candidate. It's a choice of candidate that's divided Nigeria as well as the APC itself. But while many have described it as ignoring the delicate religious balance in Nigeria, the APC's presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has stuck to his guns and has called on Nigerians to focus not on religion, but on competence. For either side in the heated arguments and verbal fights, it's become a significant moment in the battle for the presidency.
About 30 years ago, Nigerians from both sides of the Niger came together to market the ideals of a ticket like ours. They overlooked the pedestrian attempts to politicize the religious affiliations of the presidential candidate and running mate and yielded to the message of hope and the manifesto of prosperity promised them.
Once we are one, we can bring Nigeria to the clay and a high heel of Africa. We are competent, we are capable, we are able.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling APC party, Felix Morka. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Busy day for you, so we appreciate your taking the time. Presumably, one of the reasons that your party chose Kashim Shettima is to help pull votes from his region, the Northeast. How do you reckon he's going to match up to the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, in that regard? Because, of course, Mr. Abubakar is from the same region.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, one of the reasons that our presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, picked Mr. Shettima, Senator Shettima, is exactly that, to help bring in the votes and to appeal to our members, the party base in the region and beyond the region, to excite them to rally round our ticket. As governor, Mr. Shettima did immensely for his state and for his people under very difficult circumstances. And that record is there. I mean, no one disputes it. Even those who today question his suitability for this position because of his religion don't necessarily wave off his track record in his state as governor. And he's someone who is completely has that worldview that actually accommodates all kinds of perspectives. So it's not someone you can really pin down to say, look, this fellow is Muslim and therefore everything about him is from that worldview. That's not the case. So yes, we believe that he is more than competitive with the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, not just in the region but even nationally.
Well, I don't want to dwell too much on the issue of Muslim ticket, because I mean that's been people have been banging on about it for a while, and the fact is that that is your candidate, those are your candidates, and they're going to run in the 2023 election. So people had better get used to it. But just one point on that. You talked about what he's done in Borno State and all the rest of it. But a lot of people are still asking, what is it about his track record that made Bola Tinubu and the APC fly in the face of the opposition from both Christians and Muslims to choose him? What is it that he brings to the table that no northern Christian could have brought?
No, Shettima brings a whole lot to the table. I mean, today, at the event today, his biodata, his citation was given. It was clear. This is a man who is a broad thinker. He's someone who is able to walk across all kinds of lines.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that is it worth alienating a significant percentage of this country by choosing him, when clearly precedent has been set, and the almost the culture of Nigeria is to mix the two?
No, I'm not sure you're right when you call it the precedent. We have, this is not unprecedented. In 1993 we had,
in different circumstances.
Not that
completely different.
What was the difference?
Well, the main difference was that the people were there to remove a military government. They were operating under a military government. The focus, it's a bit like ending colonialism. The focus was to get rid of a colonial government. But the focus at that time was to get rid of a military government. And it didn't really matter how. People wanted to get rid of the military government and then start the process of instituting a proper civilian administration.
No, I'm not sure that the facts and the circumstances of the time are different from now. Yes, the election was to follow up on the end of the military dictatorship. That was, the election of 93. It was to usher in, civilian dispensation. But the actors are not different. These are Nigerians.
From the north and south of the country.
These are Christians. These are Muslims. The, contestation was there. Yes, there was that edge of the imperative of the moment at the time. But I don't think that that's sufficient to suggest that Nigerians didn't at that time care about religion, or that religion was irrelevant to.
Well, let's move away from
political
that,
choice,
because as I said, we've been banging on about it for a while. If the APC wins the election, how is this country likely to change under Bola Tinubu? Because the APC has been in power for nearly 8 years. What are we going to see that's dramatically different from what we've seen for the last 8 years?
A whole lot of what we've seen over the last 8 years have been good.
Well, that's not what a lot of Nigerians think.
Well, politics is politics. The reality is the reality. If you travel from Lagos to Ibadan and you traverse that road, all the years since 1999, that would take you 3-4 hours to go. How many contracts were awarded to fix that road? It was never fixed. You see, we can choose to talk about what we're interested in. We can choose to focus on those issues that appeal to those who already have decided that this government has not done enough for Bola Ahmed Tinubu to actually take a mile further. I mean, people who have that view, you can't necessarily persuade them. That's their view. That's okay, but that's not necessarily supported by the facts of the experience of this government in the last 8 years. In whatever sector, is it agriculture? Is it just infrastructure? Is it transportation? Is it, look, we can simply banalize and dismiss an entire government of nearly 8 years to say the government has done nothing.
We didn't say it's done nothing.
But no, that's what it sounds like. Even as you frame it, that's what it sounds like. It comes across as though you're saying this government has done nothing. And I don't agree with that, because the facts speak differently.
Okay, well, let's talk more about the facts, because obviously a lot of people would argue that Nigeria has, to some extent, been moving in the wrong direction economically for many years, not just from this administration. What would Mr. Tinubu do if he became president as a matter of priority, so that Nigeria can move on the right trajectory that will create jobs, opportunities, sort out the cost of living crisis, and sort out Nigeria's growing debt issue?
Look, we as a country, obviously, like you said, we have a problem. You cannot run a country on a mono product. I mean, what else do we actually, live on?
But you've had almost 8 years to change that.
Yes, but Nigeria has had also about how many years of independence to change that? Since the discovery of oil in the 50s, up until now, all of the governments from independence have been, taking a shot at actually changing that. This government, I think, has gone a whole lot further than any government before it.
Well, actually,
for instance, to restore the dignity of those who engage in the agricultural sector, to make it productive again.
But actually,
not just for them at the subsistence level, but also, as a national, product.
But actually, to agree with you to some extent, so it doesn't look like. I mean, we focus on the facts. We're not here to, attack
Correct.
the APC or the PDP or whatever. The facts, to some extent, support what you're saying, because it's emerged that Nigeria is actually moving away from being an oil-dependent economy.
Absolutely.
A lot of the resources that are being employed came from taxation and other things. So you've improved the tax culture within the country, and that's something to crow about. It's not enough, because you've offset that by yoking Nigerians with an enormous debt crisis. Well, let's move to the issue of security. We heard earlier strategically, rather tragically, that yet another priest abducted by gunmen in Kaduna State has been shot dead by his captors, and that more than 6,000 people have now been reported to have been killed since the beginning of this year alone, and many more kidnapped, all under an APC government. What do you have to say to those people?
Look, first of all, anytime any one of our citizens, just one, is killed or injured or abducted away from their loved ones, that's bad, that's tragic. There's no way to justify it. It's bad, and the government needs to do more, and the government is doing more. But, having said that, I think that, in any country of the world, those who mean to do evil, who mean to, attack anyone, will attack anyone. Question is what you do after that, and maybe what you also do to prevent, events like that from actually happening. In some of the most advanced countries, in the world, whether it's the United States or anywhere else, these things happen. Even kids.
But that's no consolation to the people who've been killed and to
Charles,
their relatives.
I'm coming. I'm making a point.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fair point to make. The point I'm making is that these events are tragic. I've said that. There's no equivocating about it. It's wrong. It's terrible. It shouldn't happen. But having said that, I'm saying that we Nigerians, our people as well, are not doing enough to also express our outrage when these things happen. It's as though we actually, unwittingly applaud those who attack and kill us. We celebrate them. We deride. I asked this question of my friends. I said to them, how many of us really would send our kids off to join the Nigerian army to defend the territorial integrity of this country and to defend our national security? How many of us every day wake up and say, look, you know what? My son, I wish that he goes into the army or to the police to actually serve this country of ours. How many of us would do that?
Well,
and my point is that we do not celebrate enough those who even make the sacrifice.
Right.
Look, there's a law that is wrong.
Right.
But there's also a law that this government is doing right.
Okay.
And needs to be encouraged to do more.
I want to thank you very much indeed, Felix Morka, the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling APC party. Thank you very much.